Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our second public meeting for the Citrus County Wastewater Treatment Feasibility Analysis. My name is Dennis Davis, and I'm a professional engineer with Wright Pierce, the company that is assisting the county with this important study. We're going to go ahead and get right into the presentation now. We'll have a pre-recorded presentation and then a live question and answer session. And as we get into the presentation, it'll give you directions on how to enter questions and whatnot. But with that, there are members of the county staff on hand, the Water Resources Division, to help answer any questions that we may have at the end. But with that, we'll go ahead and start the presentation. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Welcome to the second open house for the Citrus County Wastewater Treatment Feasibility Analysis. For the rest of this presentation, we will reference the Wastewater Treatment Feasibility Analysis as the project. My name is Dennis Davis, and I'm a professional engineer with Wright Pierce, the engineering consulting company that is working with Citrus County to develop the project. The goal of this meeting is to summarize the information provided during the first public meeting, discuss the various phases of the septic to sewer program, the requirements for upgrading septic systems for those people who do not get connected to sewer, and the cost for and how residents can pay for these connections and upgrades. Following the pre-recorded portion of this meeting, we will open the meeting up to a live question and answer session. The presentation and the subsequent question and answer session is being recorded and will be posted to the project's website within a few business days. A link to the project website will be provided at the end of this presentation. Before we start the presentation, I will share a few items regarding this workshop format. Due to the state of emergency declared by Governor DeSantis as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held virtually and not in person. We are using the GoToWebinar meeting platform for the meeting. On your computer or device screen, you will see something that looks like this in the upper right-hand corner. To listen to the meeting, your computer or device speakers are selected by default. If you prefer to listen by phone, select Phone Call in the audio pane of the control panel and dial in using the information on this screen. The phone number to call is 1-877-309-2074. And the access code is 916-180-496#. Questions and comments will be addressed at the end of the presentation, but can be entered into the questions feature at any time during the meeting. Just click on Questions in the control panel and you can type your question. This presentation will also be available on the project website at www.citruscountywastewatertfa.com. Further questions and comments can be submitted by calling the project hotline at 352-269-6440 or by emailing info@citruscountywastewatertfa.com. We will now begin the presentation. Citrus County is home to some amazing natural wonders, several first magnitude Florida outstanding springs, including Homosassa, Chassahowitzka, and the Crystal River Kings Bay Springs Group. The springs are fed from one of the most unique sources of groundwater in the world, the Upper Floridan Aquifer, which is also the source of your drinking water. It's estimated that these natural wonders draw 50,000 people a year to Citrus County. This influx of visitors fuels our local economy and our local businesses. In 2019, tourism brought in $270 million in revenue to the county. As Citrus County has developed over the decades, septic systems were installed as our primary method to dispose of sewage generated from our private residences. There are approximately 41,000 septic systems currently installed and in use in Citrus County. Most of these septic systems would be what is considered a traditional septic system, which includes a septic tank and drain field. A traditional septic system, when installed correctly and maintained regularly, retains the solids in the tank and allows the liquids to drain out through the drain field, through the soil, and into the aquifer. These traditional septic systems provide minimal to no treatment of liquid waste, allowing a large quantity of nutrients like nitrogen to enter the aquifer. These nutrients can be thought of as a fertilizer when present in the springs and result in algal blooms. Advanced septic systems include enhancements such as mechanical components like pumps and aerators in the septic tanks and biological media in the drain field that enhance the uptake of nutrients before they enter the groundwater. No matter how the sewage from your house is treated and disposed of, there is still some amount of nitrogen that goes back into the environment. As you can see on this slide, the effluent from a standard septic system will include approximately 40 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. The advanced septic systems do a better job at eliminating nitrogen, and the typical effluent includes approximately 15 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. However, the best method of treating our sewage is by sending it to a wastewater treatment plant, where here in Citrus County, the effluent coming out of the wastewater treatment plants is as low as 3 milligrams per liter of nitrogen. Remember, not only is this nitrogen fueling algal blooms in our springs, as shown in this graphic, but it's also affecting the quality of our drinking water, whether that comes from a well in your yard or from a potable water drinking system. FDEP has studied both the Crystal River Kings Bay Springs and the Chassahowitzka Homosassa Springs to determine what is causing the algal blooms and the overall deterioration of groundwater quality in the springs. The study identified the area of influence for each spring system, shown on this figure by the dark black lines. Their initial study identified the sources of nitrogen that are impacting the springs and set a total maximum daily load, or TMDL, for the springs. The TMDL is a maximum amount of a pollutant allowed to enter a water body. After completing the TMDL study, FDEP completed a second study called the Basin Management Action Plan, or BMAP. The BMAP identifies the actions that must be taken to reduce the amount of nitrogen entering the groundwater and thus the springs. The development of a BMAP for each outstanding Florida spring in the state was required by the state legislature. The final BMAPs have been accepted by FDEP and have been signed into law. Entities like Citrus County are now required to work to achieve the requirements set out in the BMAP. Within each BMAP planning area, shown by the dark black line in the figure, there is a smaller area that is of the most concern to the FDEP because it has been shown to have the most immediate impact on the springs. These areas are called the Priority Focus Areas, or PFAs, and are shown as the colored areas on this figure. FDEP has identified the sources of nitrogen that are causing the degradation of the groundwater quality in Citrus County springs. These three graphs show that the sources include fertilizer, livestock waste, atmospheric deposition, wastewater treatment facilities, and septic systems. As you can see, the amount each source contributes to the pollution varies for each spring. For example, the major contributor in Kings Bay is septic systems, while in Homosassa, it's livestock waste, and in Chassahowitzka, it's farm fertilizer. Citrus County has implemented fertilizer ordinances that are meant to reduce the impacts to the springs from sports turf grass and urban turf grass fertilizers. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, also known as FDECS, has implemented best management practices to reduce the quantity of nitrogen coming from farm fertilizer and livestock waste. Citrus County is also working to upgrade all of its wastewater treatment facilities to meet the BMAP requirements and has started this study, the Wastewater Treatment Feasibility Analysis, to set in motion a plan to reduce the impacts from septic systems. The FDEP provided a grant to Citrus County to develop a plan to reduce the amount of nitrogen to the springs from septic systems. This plan is called the Wastewater Treatment Feasibility Analysis. The plan had specific requirements that included inventorying existing septic systems, documenting wastewater system needs to meet the BMAP requirements, identifying septic systems within the PFA that required remediation, developing a cost model for the plan, developing a recommended alternative, identifying the resultant environmental benefit, developing a final report, and developing a public education and communication plan that will help the residents understand the issues and processes for addressing the issues. Using a computer software system called Geographic Information System, or GIS, we broke the area within the PFA down into smaller project areas as shown on this map. We then developed an environmental scoring criterion that ranked each project area based on an average age of septic tanks within that project area and the amount of nitrogen that each project area contributes to the groundwater on a per acre basis. The result was that each project area received a score between 1 and 5, with 5 meaning that the project area was the most critical and 1 meaning that the area was least critical. As you can see on this map, areas ranked as 4 and 5 are prevalent on both the east side of the county, which is furthest away from the springs, and the west side of the county, which is closest to the springs. The takeaway message here is that we are all negatively impacting the quality of the groundwater and the springs. After the environmental scoring was completed for each project area, a phasing plan had to be developed in accordance with the BMAP requirements. The phasing plan took into account the environmental scores as well as other constraints, such as the proximity of the project area to an existing sewer system. The phasing plan identified 4 phases and 159 project areas that can be implemented to achieve the BMAP's nitrogen reduction goals. The figure shows phasing from the most immediate to be implemented, shown in dark blue, to the least immediate to be implemented, shown in the lightest blue. We have also identified many of the common subdivision names on this map for your reference. This table shows projects that qualified to be included in phase 1 of the project's septic to sewer program. This table does not present the projects in order of implementation. The table shows that phase 1 plan will eliminate 3,058 existing septic systems, achieve 22,925 nitrogen credits, and cost approximately $111 million to implement. Several of these projects are currently in design, including projects for the Cambridge Green subdivision and multiple projects in Old Homosassa. The county does not have a set timetable for the implementation of the phase 1 projects, and the overall timing will be heavily predicated upon the availability of funding from the FDEP and the Southwest Florida Water Management District. On the previous slide, we showed the cost per project area for phase 1. We have also developed cost for each project in each phase for the entire septic to sewer program. For simplicity, we have provided a summary of the 159 project areas by phase on this table. When fully implemented, the septic to sewer program will serve a total of 44,726 parcels, have eliminated 16,817 existing septic systems, earned 139,689 nitrogen credits, and cost almost $980 million. It is obviously very important to understand how this will impact property owners. Based on our planning level costs, the average cost per parcel in phase 1 is $21,652. However, it is important to recognize that it is currently the county's plan to only implement projects for which they receive grant funding in order to offset the overall project costs. When grant funding is received, it reduces the overall project cost and the cost for each property owner. Grants can range from several $100,000 to millions of dollars. There are several agencies that provide grant funding assistance for septic to sewer projects. These include the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, the state legislature, and the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Each of these grant programs have different project requirements, provide different levels of funding, and have different project requirements in order to be selected for funding. Additionally, all of these funding sources have limited funding each fiscal year, and the grant selection process is competitive. Thus, grant money is not always guaranteed. However, the county staff is very familiar with these programs and has already secured well over $10 million in funding for similar projects over the last 5 years. So how much will property owners ultimately be charged for connection to the sewer in accordance with the state mandate VMAP plan? We have provided this example. However, it is important to recognize that this is only an example and that the actual cost will be based on the actual construction costs and grants received. The net construction cost is equal to the total construction bid prices received during a competitive bid minus the actual grant funding received from the funding agencies. The homeowner charge is equal to the net construction cost divided by the number of parcels that the project will serve, plus the connection fee. As you see here, we have provided an example on this slide. In this case, the estimated construction cost is $7.8 million, and the county has received over $5.3 million in grant funding. Thus, the net construction cost is $2,451,000. The homeowner's charge is then calculated by dividing $2,451,000 by the 330 parcels, which equals $7,427. We then add the $2,745 connection fee to that for a total homeowner charge of $10,172. Please keep in mind that the homeowner is still responsible for their on-lot costs of abandoning their septic tank and connecting to the sewer system. The county understands that this is a huge burden for each property owner and is doing everything that it can to reduce the project costs while meeting the state-mandated VMAP requirements. There are currently two methods available to homeowners to pay their septic to sewer conversion charge. First, the homeowner could make a one-time lump sum payment for the connection fee. We realize that some homeowners may not wish or be able to make a lump sum payment. Thus, the county has also set up a program where the homeowner charge can be added to your tax bill over a 10-year period. The homeowner charge in this case will be divided by 10 and added to the tax bill each year for the next 10 years. This method of payment will also include a 6% interest rate on the homeowner charge. It should be noted that two of the advantages of performing a septic to sewer conversion on your property is that it will increase the value of your home, and that by eliminating the septic tank and drain field, you will have more usable property area, especially for those homes that rely on a mounded drain field. We have focused much of our discussion today on septic to sewer conversions. However, as shown in the earlier slides, there are large portions of the county that fall within the PFA where septic to sewer conversions are not planned. The map on this slide shows the VMAP outlines in black and the PFA areas in the shaded colors. Within the shaded PFA areas, you will note that we have cross-hatched areas which represent the septic to sewer conversion areas that we discussed earlier in this presentation. The rest of the PFA areas that are not part of the septic to sewer conversions and are shown in the orange or blue color are also faced with VMAP requirements when it comes to their septic systems. As required by the VMAP, if a property owner is going to install a new septic system on a lot that is 1 acre or less in size, they must install an advanced septic system. A traditional septic system is no longer allowed. Additionally, within 5 years of the VMAP adoption, which is the year 2024, if a traditional septic system on a property of any size within the PFA requires repair or replacement, that septic system will be required to upgrade to an advanced septic system. There are 3 types of advanced septic systems that homeowners may consider. First is the in-ground nitrogen-reducing biofilters. This system is most like a traditional septic system, except that under the drain field, there is material, wood chips, that allows the nitrogen in the wastewater to be reduced. Within this system, you will be required to pump out your septic system every 3 to 5 years and replace the media in the drain field every 10 years, unless it can be proven to still be effective. The advantages of this system include providing for on-site nitrogen reduction, can be used with existing septic tank, and grant funding may be available. The disadvantages of this system include it requires more space than a traditional septic system, and if insufficient depth to the seasonal high water table exists, then earth mounding is needed and pumps may be required. The second type of advanced septic systems are aerobic treatment units, or ATUs. These systems are traditionally multi-tank or multi-chamber systems that include an aeration system to enhance nitrogen reduction. These systems must meet NSF 245, which is a national standard, and must be on the Florida Department of Health's approved ATU list. It is important to recognize that you will be required to enter into a maintenance contract when you have this type of system installed. The advantages of this system include providing for on-site nitrogen reduction. It requires less space than the in-ground nitrogen reducing bioreactor, and grant funding may be available for homeowners. The disadvantages of this system include you must contract with a maintenance entity, and if insufficient depth to the seasonal high water table exists, then earth mounding is needed and pumps may be required. The third type of advanced septic system is the performance-based treatment system. These are the most complicated of the systems and will mostly be used on very space-limited sites or sites with high wastewater loads. Performance-based treatment systems are multi-tank, multi-chamber systems that provide the highest level of treatment. However, they must be designed by a licensed professional engineer, and you must enter into a maintenance contract with an approved maintenance entity for use of these systems. The advantages of this system include providing for on-site nitrogen reduction. It can be designed for compact sites, and grant funding may be available for homeowners. The disadvantages of this system include a high initial cost. These systems require an operating permit. You must contract with a maintenance entity. They require power. They have a high annual operating cost. On this slide, we present a generalized comparison of the estimated cost for these various types of conversion technologies associated with meeting the requirements of the state-mandated BMAP. On the table, you will note that we are comparing the cost for septic to sewer conversions and 2 of the 3 advanced septic system options, the in-ground nitrogen-reducing bioreactor and the aerated treatment unit. We do not present cost for the performance-based treatment systems because they require site-specific design and the cost can be too wide-ranging. This table is based on an individual property lot basis. The important takeaways from this table are that gravity sewers have the highest construction cost and require a connection fee. ATUs have the highest annual O&M costs. When evaluated for the long term, considering all of the maintenance and replacement costs, the gravity sewer collection system is the most economical system to install. Implementation of projects identified in the wastewater treatment feasibility analysis are required by state law in order for the county to meet the requirements of the BMAP and will have long-lasting positive impacts to each property owner in Citrus County. The benefits of this program include the following: improved health of our groundwater, which is the source of your drinking water; improved health in our springs, which draw in 500,000 visitors each year and resulted in $270 million in revenue in 2019. Increased property value as a result of these improvements. And for those lots where septic to sewer conversions will be performed, it provides the property owner with more usable property. With that, we will conclude this second public presentation on the wastewater treatment feasibility analysis. Please remember to visit the project website at the link shown on the right-hand side of the screen. We will now respond to any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I currently have one question that's been posted. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, you can go to the questions tab and type in any question that you may have this evening. The first question I have is from Alonda McCarty, and her question is, what testing and ground truthing was used to determine that livestock waste was the highest contributor to homosassa? So Ms. McCarty, what FDEP did when they came up with this calculation is they developed a GIS-based tool. It's called the Nitrogen Source Inventory Tool, NSILT. And what that tool did is it looked at the land uses across all of the project areas, or both of the BMAP areas, the Crystal River, Kings Bay, and the Homosassa Chassahowitzka areas, and it assigned a nitrogen load per each land use. And so, in doing that, what happened was the areas that were meant for livestock were the highest contributor. So that's how that was calculated, and that's how that was identified. In regards to ground truthing that, in terms of any testing or anything, I don't think that there has been any testing that you can necessarily tell the source of the nitrogen, as it gets to the spring. You can't really do that. So I don't know if there's been any true ground truthing or testing of that, but that's how the tool was developed and how the calculations came about. All right. Any other questions from our audience tonight? We have 17 people in attendance today. So we do, again, appreciate everybody's being part of this. And, I think part of the takeaway today was to give you a little bit more information than what we had in the first public meeting. We kind of summarized some of the things that were out there, but really wanted to give a little bit more information about the cost of the septic to sewer conversions, and then also talk about the requirements for those people that weren't going to be on a septic to sewer conversion, but the requirements for enhanced or updated septic systems. So I do have a couple more questions that just popped in, so let me take these in order. Again, Ms. Alonda McCarty has a question. So no water testing. The land use is based on the property appraiser's info, not on actual farm use. There are a lot of discrepancies in the map on areas that say they are ag when really they aren't actively ag. Example, just a house plus 5 acres. So, I mean, water testing, let's broaden it out in terms of the water testing. Water testing was done to determine that the springs are affected. So we know that the springs have excess nitrogen in them. So there's no doubts about that. But there's no testing to say, okay, is this nitrogen source from livestock waste, or is it from septic tanks? No, nothing of that nature has been done. The next one is from Kate Spratt. On slide 12, which project does Spring Cove Road fall into for the old Homosassa projects? Ken, you maybe we can bring that up if I can get someone from Valerian to potentially bring up slide 12. Bear with us just one second, folks, and we're going to bring that slide up. And so, Ken, the question was on slide 12, which project does Spring Cove Road fall into for the old Homosassa projects? Do you know that one, Ken?
In these particular projects, that's the breakdown that Wright Pierce did. It's not exactly corresponding to the phasing plan that we have. Typically, we refer to Spring Cove Road, Blue Water Forest as phase 5, which is the last phase. But it would be within one of these phases. I'm not sure exactly which one. Probably, I would think maybe Northeast would be the one. But again, those are not in any particular order.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. I will just, just to keep in mind back to Alonda McCarty's comments too about the land use and the ag. The purpose of this meeting in this project is really have been to focus on the septic systems. And so, while FDEP has, as we've shown in those couple of graphs, tried to evaluate or did evaluate all of the sources of nitrogen within the basin, this project is really meant to just focus on the septic systems. And so we've really kind of narrowed our focus in on that. As we mentioned in that presentation, there's a number of other agencies that are dealing with other sources of waste and nutrients that are going into the aquifer. So all of these are coming together to overall try to improve the quality of the springs. Okay, so on my next question is from Kristen Hall. What is the plan for the homes on the south side of the river, just off of the Homosassa Spring? Ken?
South side of the river, just off of the Homosassa Spring.
Yep. What is the plan for the homes on the south side of the river, just off the Homosassa Spring?
Well, the plan that we have in place now encompasses everything from Mason Creek to the river. So all those homes are included in the plan. As far as exactly where they are and when it would be implemented, we're probably not to that point, and I would have to know exactly where we're talking about.
Okay.
We're working on 2 phases right now. We're working on downtown west and downtown east. So those are the areas kind of right around the school and around towards the sugar mill.
And of course, as the county is planning, as the grant funding comes along, that's how these projects are going to be implemented. That's going to be the thing that really helps to reduce the costs for the homeowners and also for the county. And so obviously both of those areas that Ken mentioned have already received their grant funding, so they're moving forward.
Correct.
All right, let me look here. The next question is from Dan Hilliard. Is multi-jurisdictional collaboration being considered? Well, I'll say this, Dan, from that perspective, and as we talk about multi-jurisdictional, yes, I would say in general, yes. I mean, we're talking right now about Citrus County as the county, the unincorporated county, their plans moving forward here. But as we know, Crystal River has its own plans and projects that are moving forward right now. There is a little bit of discussion as we wrap up the report that will be part of this project where we've coordinated with Crystal River and discussed what their plans are, and they're incorporated into this also. The funding side of this, though, that we're presenting here tonight has really been focused just on Citrus County and the county residents, though. Again, Crystal River has their own set of projects and plans that are also going to be funded. Above and beyond that, though, from a multi-jurisdictional perspective, I would say from a funding perspective, it is absolutely multi-jurisdictional also. We are getting funding, as you saw in this presentation tonight, all of those different funding agencies that are available to provide funding, and the county has done a great job already at tapping into multiple sources to get that funding. So from that perspective, again, I think that is a multi-jurisdictional effort to fund these projects. If you pay attention to what's going on in the Florida legislature, the legislature is very much in support of reducing nitrogen getting into the groundwater, doing the septic to sewer conversions, upgrading septic tanks. So they're funding these types of projects from the top on down. So Dan, I hope that answered your question well. The next question I have is from Brian and Christina Gay. We live basically right on a line across from the forest. How do we know that we are really affected by this? Our location is 1093 West Sunturf Street. So Ken, I don't know if you have a map built into your head up there, but what I would say is that obviously, Brian and Christina, we can, if you want to reach out to us, we have the hotline there. Um, you know, knowing that you're out here in the forest, I'm trying to get my bearings, but somewhere out in this area is where I'm imagining that you guys are at. But we can help you with that to look it up on a map and try to give you a better idea on how you're going to be impacted by this. Absolutely. So I would say that there is both the phone number as well as the um, email address to get some more specific information. If you would submit a question through that means, we can help you find that specific residence and talk to you specifically about how you're impacted by this. Ken, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, unfortunately, I'm usually pretty good on county roadways, but I don't know where Sunturf is. If it's on the east side of the forest, you can see from this map that, if you're on the Floral City side, you would not be affected. But I'm not sure exactly where that is. So I think that's you're exactly right, Dennis. If they submit that question, we can get them more detailed information.
Okay, that sounds good. And I see I have a couple. I'll jump down. They had submitted a couple of other questions. The last one says yes, west side. So they're on the west side there. So yeah, Brian and Christina, I would say if you could reach back out to us, go to the website. That's Citrus County Wastewater TFA.com. Go there, submit a question via the email. There's an info email there that you can submit, and we can get you the information that you need that way. Okay, so next question, I'm going back up the list now to Sue Davidson. My husband and I live paycheck to paycheck and have $700 in a savings account. How on earth would we be able to afford this conversion? Well, Sue, obviously it's very, very, very important, obviously to you that the finances of this, and that's what we really wanted to get in tonight, was to talk about that. And the county, understands that. Obviously, the one-time lump sum payment, that doesn't work for you. And so what the county has really tried to do was, hey, come up with a way in order to do this. And by spreading this out over the next 10 years, we're hoping to lessen the burden on an annual basis to the residents of Citrus County. So again, trying to spread that out over time. Ken, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would add too that we are pursuing grants with DEP to help pay the connection fees and plumbing costs. We believe that there's a good chance that we're going to get that funded, and the proposal there would be $4,000 would be available for those upfront costs for both the connection fees and the plumbing. So that at least would get the majority of the upfront costs paid if you finance the rest of it. So that's our hope. That application is in right now. We know that it's being considered by DEP, and we expect to get an answer on that very soon. So hopefully, that puts you in a position where you don't have to get a lot of out-of-pocket costs right off the bat.
Okay, I'm copying. While we've been sitting here talking, I'm going to put it into the chat function here. I'm going to be all entire audience. So with us tonight is Mr. Kevin Coyne from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and he sent us this link. This is a link to FDEP website. Y'all should be able to copy this and put it in your Internet Explorer browser and it'll take you to an FDEP website that'll allow you to see just in terms of where you are in regards to the priority focus area and the BMAP, which gives you a little bit of an understanding of where you fall in terms of all of this. And I guess this is kind of in response to Brian and Christina's questions. But again, Brian and Christina, we can get you some more specific information. Okay, I'm going to continue to move down the list here. Okay, next question is from Dan Hilliard again. Is any consideration being given to remediation of pollutants besides nitrogen? Dan, as the FDEP, if you remember on the presentation here tonight, we talked about several of the initiatives that the FDEP has went through. And there was the total maximum daily load report that they did. There was, and then the basin management action plan that they prepared. So in the total maximum daily load evaluation that they did, in that report, they evaluated what are the impacts to the springs. And so regards to other pollutants other than nitrogen, what they found through that study is that nitrogen is the pollutant of concern. That is the pollutant that is causing the deterioration of the groundwater within the springs. So yes, they evaluated what, if there is anything. They do, the state, the FDEP does TMDL evaluations for water bodies all across the state, not just springs. And in some of them, they've identified that it's nitrogen. Some of them they've identified phosphorus. Some of them it's E. coli or things like that. So there are, and it could be any other number of contaminants of concern. So, but when they did it for the springs, what it came up with was nitrogen was the item of concern, the pollutant of concern. And so that's why the focus here has been on nitrogen and how do we remediate the pollution from nitrogen. Okay, the next question I have here is from Kristen Hall. Okay, I think Kristen was just chiming in. If you remember, Kristen asked the question, what is the plan for homes on the south side of the river, just off Homosassa Spring? So she chimed in again. It's Purslane, Blue Water Point, Spring Cove. I don't know if those help you out in terms of telling you where we're kind of getting an idea of where she is.
Yeah, that's Blue Water Forest and Spring Cove Road, yeah.
Okay. All right, next question is from Kate Spratt. Why are the septic systems closest to the springs in the least priority phase? Kate, well, they're not. They're in each of the phases. So if you'll see here in the shot that's up here right now, this is our project phasing. So when we see down here in Old Homosassa, we're in the dark blue. That's the most priority, the most immediate phases to get taken care of. So those are there. We do see some ones out here that are up around on the outside of Crystal River, actually on the outside of Kings Bay here, along the run out to the Gulf, and those are on a lower priority. I think these are on a level 3. Of course, what we're not seeing on this map, Kate, is that the city of Crystal River, of course, has a lot of this land around the spring itself. And so those projects are not showing up. And again, Crystal River has at least 2 major projects going on right now. I think it's Indian Water, and then the south side septic to sewer projects that are going to eliminate approximately, I think, around 700 septic tanks between those 2 projects right around Kings Bay. Okay, continue moving on. Okay, so this question again from Brian and Christina Gay. On a 3-acre parcel, not in a flood zone, with grant money applied, would we still be looking at 10K? Again, Brian and Christina, I think if we could have a separate discussion about your actual location, because again, we're not 100% sure if you're going to be in a septic to sewer conversion or in those areas that are within the PFA but are not required to do a septic to sewer conversion. At some point in time, you may have to upgrade your septic tank. So we really need to figure that out before we answer those questions there. Okay, just going through here. The last comment I have is from Patty Parker that said the link doesn't work. So let me try this again, Patty, if I can. Okay, let's try this one more time and see. It looks like it's coming through the same way. Yeah, Patty, I'm not sure if you can copy that link without the first and last character in that link list, or in the overall link. So it starts at the H and ends at the M. Don't copy that first and last character, and then try putting that into your web browser. I think that should work that way. So hopefully that'll work for you. Let me test that myself just to make sure. Yeah, Patty. So, like I said, if you do it that way, you leave off that first character and the last character. That one should work for you. And it looks like Chuck has helped me out here and has actually inserted a working link. So thank you for your help, Chuck. Okay, so I think that's all of the. Let me just make sure. Let me go down here my list. Yep. Yep, that is all of the questions that we have. Patty's was the last question. We'll just throw it out there one last time. If anybody has any questions, please submit them real quick. Ken, do you have any final words or comments that you want to make?
No, I think you covered it pretty well, Dennis.
All right. Well, with that, I don't see any other questions coming in. So again, we'll just say thank you for everyone that took the time. Oh, I have one last question come in from Kristen Hall. Is the county planning to control the required maintenance agreements and pricing in areas that do not get upgraded to sewer upgrade it to sewer and remain on septic? And do the proposed regulations pertain to existing newer design septic tanks that are already in place? So a couple of things here. Let me kind of unpack that a little bit. Is the county planning to control the required maintenance agreements and pricing in areas that do not get upgraded? So Ken, any comments there?
We are trying to put a plan in place that would assist homeowners with the cost to do the upgrade, but it would be a reimbursement basis where the homeowner hires someone to do the work and then they get a portion of it through a reimbursement. But as far as maintenance costs on those systems and things like that, it would remain private, so the county wouldn't have any, would not be involved in any of the maintenance of the new system once it was in place.
Okay. So that will be kind of a free market thing, whatever the folks decide to charge for that and
Right.
to do that maintenance. Yep. And then the second part of that question, let me get back in here. Okay, so do the proposed regulations pertain to existing newer design septic tanks that are already in place? So if in the last you put your septic tank in place, Kristen, in the last several years, and you have what is considered an aerobic treatment unit or an in-ground nitrogen reducing bioreactor, if you had something that met those requirements, then no, you're fine as is. However, if you were installing a new septic tank today and you were doing it on a lot that was 1 acre or smaller, and you're within that area that's called the priority focus area, remember that's the shaded areas on those maps, you will be required to install one of those newer styles. Also, on top of that, within 5 years after the BMAP adoption, or the year 2024, if you are having to do any work to your septic system at all to upgrade or replace it, you are going to have to go to that one of the advanced systems. If you already have that installed, then hey, no problem. You're just doing your typical maintenance that you would have to do. Okay, we did have another question come in. This is from Stephen Mingai. Again, in regards to the Spring Cove, Upper Homosassa River area, there are very old drain fields at water level, putting effluent directly into the river. Would that not only be a nitro problem or nitrogen problem, but also a public health problem? So obviously, if we were to walk out into somebody's yard and see that, yes, there is, sewage coming out from the drain field, it's ponded up there and it's running off, that is obviously, a public health problem. The health department does take care of those issues, absolutely. If that was to be reported to the health department, they would take care of those issues. And Stephen, I think, you see some of the issues where we have these septic systems, which, when Florida was developed, that was the state of the art. That's how we were doing things. But, now with 41,000 septic systems installed within Citrus County alone, we see the impacts that it's having to the health of our ecosystems, the potential health to residents that live nearby these failing septic systems. So yes, it's absolutely an issue, and it's something that these projects are going to try to get resolved to the best way possible. All right. Well, with that, thank you for the couple of extra questions that we've got in there. And again, we thank everyone so much for attending tonight's presentation. This will be posted on the website, the project website, within the next few business days. Welcome everybody to share it with your friends. Let them know that it's up there. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to us through the website, and we'll be happy to get back with you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.